Hey, it's Mark Ferguson with Invest for More, and I realized I hadn't done an update on the real estate market for a long time. So we're going to talk about what is happening with prices, inventory, and the general real estate market. Now, you will still see pages like this all over talking about doom and gloom and how real estate is crashing and how the whole world is exploding and nobody should buy a house ever and you should sell everything you own. I try and bring what is really happening and what the data shows, not cherry pick the doom and gloom to get likes and views. And maybe I should have my face plastered all over my thumbnails with really scary looks on it, but I refuse to do things that way. So let's look at what's really happening in real estate. Okay, here's the Realtor.com monthly housing report for December, which shows us so much good data. And it shows us data year over year, which is so important to look at with real estate. So many people, and it's not just that YouTube site, there's all kinds of people calling for a crash. They've been calling for a crash since COVID. Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad, Poor Dad, has been calling for a crash since 2014, I think. A lot of people said the silver tsunami was coming when baby boomers would get old and sell off their houses or pass away. Well, that's been happening now for a long time. It isn't happening. And the truth is, millennials and Gen X have a bigger generation than baby boomers. So they're buying houses and they're buying up any house they can that the baby boomers are selling or losing. So there's just so much stuff out there. And a lot of the stuff you'll find is just cherry pick data. That's why I like this year over year stuff, because one of the biggest things is like, oh, there's more price cuts. There were 200 price cuts in this zip code last quarter. It's like, so what? I mean, how many price cuts were there the quarter before that? How many price cuts were there last year at the same time? They never tell you that data. They just shock and awe you with, 200 price cuts, or sales are down 20%. It's really important to know, sales are not prices. Sales are the number of houses selling, and whenever interest rates go up like they have, sales go down. The number of houses drop significantly. That's always happened, but prices haven't. So you hear sales are down, and people try to make that out like it's prices, and it's not. It's just the amount of houses selling is lower. Sometimes you can have lower sales and higher prices too. There's just so many things that go on with the real estate market, and it's really easy to manipulate the numbers, cherry pick them to say what you want to say if you don't show the whole picture. And my whole point is the Realtor.com data really shows us the whole picture of what is happening with listings, prices, etc. So what we're looking at, active listing count, and it's each year's 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So the blue line is 2017, orange 18, 19. The brown one is 2024. We don't have 2025 yet because we don't have data for January yet. 2020, the crazy line is light blue. That's kind of the anomaly that it'll go all over the place because of COVID. 2022, 2023, 2021 is down here. So after 2020, after COVID hit in the middle of the year, listings went way down, and they stayed down. People went in a buying spree. It was crazy. The market went nuts, right? And a lot of people predicted a crash. In fact, I'll be the first to say I never expected to see this massive increase after COVID hit. I think I'd said in some videos, I could definitely see the market slow down. It's really hard to know what will happen, but it's hard to see the market keep going up. And I was wrong. But it's really difficult to predict the market. So, and I always say this when I don't want to call them prediction videos, but give insights. Nobody knows for sure what's going to happen. So I will never come out here and say, oh, the market's for sure going up, or the market's got to crash. It has to crash. Nobody knows for sure. There's so many variables and so many things that could happen. Now we can kind of give our best guess and say from data what we think. But yeah, there's no for sures in real estate. And I feel sorry. I feel awful for people who maybe wanted to buy a house in 2020 or 2021, and we're listening to these people who told them, don't buy, it's going to crash, sell everything. And they've been renting this whole time, not building equity, not paying down their loans, while house prices have skyrocketed and just kept going up. And now interest rates are up so high, and that actually makes it harder to buy a house than the prices. The interest rates make it way more expensive as far as the payment goes than the house prices. So, if you're ready to buy, if you're ready to sell, I always tell people, don't try and time the market. Kind of do what's best for you in your life at that point, because no one knows for sure what's going to happen. All right, sorry, I keep talking about all these different things, but December, that's where we're at right now. 2024 for active listings, right here. We're right in the middle of everything. And that's kind of what we've been thinking, is maybe things will return to a more normal market. And that's kind of what we have right now. 2019, 18, 17 all had more listings. 2023, 22, 21, 20 all had fewer listings. And honestly, this was a normal market here too. This was a crazy abnormal market. So we're getting closer to normal, almost on the side of not being as normal, but interest rates could have something to do with that. That's like why I said there's so many different things that contribute to these figures and numbers in the real estate market in general. All right. This is the total number of homes for sale, and this includes houses that are under contract. And here's our brown line right here. Again, something else to look at is, does this line follow kind of all the other years? This little blue line, we just kind of ignore that guy. There's so many figures that are messed up because of 2020 COVID, but is it following the other ones? These are kind of messed up because of COVID and stuff, but a little more normal. But you know, when I think you want to be worried is when you start seeing a complete change from the norm, right? If all of a sudden the total listing count was level, right? Or even went up a little bit in December, then maybe we should be worried, like, oh man, everybody's selling their house now. Maybe we should start to look at the market and what's happening. Again, can't predict that that's going to cause anything, but it's something to think about. But it's not. It's following almost exactly the same trend as every other year. In fact, fewer total listings in these kind of normal years, although more listings in the abnormal years. Pending listing count. These are homes that are under contract but not yet sold. And if you don't know what under contract means, it basically means you put up a house for sale and a buyer comes along and say, oh, I want to buy this house. We're going to put an offer on it. They offer $200,000. The seller says, great, let's do it. They sign the contract. The house is in escrow or pending or under contract for $200,000, but they still might do their inspection, their appraisal, get their loans worked out. It might be 30, 60 days before that home actually sells. So in that period where it's under contract, everything's signed, no other buyers can really come along and say, oh, I want it and offer more or anything like that, is called under contract. But it could still, fall apart. The inspection, the appraisal, the loan could not go through. So that's what pending or under contract means. So again, down here, very normal with almost every other year. 2021, 2020, very abnormal years, had way more under contract. But this is right in line with the other years that actually had way lower interest rates than this year. So again, nothing really abnormal there. We have newly listed homes, which is also interesting too, because it might give us an idea if more homes are coming on the market, more people are selling. And I think I said this last month or 2 months ago, whenever I did my update, if this starts to flatten out, then maybe we worry. But look, it's exactly the same. This market is acting exactly the same as every market we've had the last 9-8 years, whatever it is. And before that, I'm sure it was very similar to this as well. So when they're calling for this doom and gloom and all these awful things happening, I always like to look at these charts and see, okay, is it abnormal from the previous years? If not, then what's the big deal here? Really, it's just acting like every other year. That's regional data. I don't go too in-depth onto all of the words and stuff. If you want to read this report, you can. It's just search for Realtor.com monthly housing report, December 2024. It'll pop right up. You can search for any month you want. They do it every month. It's really, really nice. Days on market. Again, you hear this one talked about all the time. Days on market increased. Houses are 30 days longer on the market than last month or last year. The market's crashing. So again, we want to come here and see how it looks. Is anything crazy? So blue line is crazy year, crazy COVID. We could just call it crazy COVID year. 2021 also could be considered a crazy COVID year when prices went crazy. There was no houses for sale. Everybody's buying. 2022 was that way the first half of the year. And then interest rates jumped up and it became more normal. And then 2023 was kind of the same way, more normal. And then 2024, look at this, slightly more listings, or days on market, sorry, slightly longer days on market than 2023, by what, 10, 8 days longer, but we're still not as high as the normal years, 19, 18, 17, still not higher than that. So there's nothing to go crazy with. Now, I really wish, and maybe we can find some of those stats. We had stats that showed days on market for 2008. In fact, let's see what we can find. No, I really dislike search engines. I should probably be using AI instead. So we'll see what AI says, because it's so much easier than search. So he always gives us warning. Homes typically stayed on the market much longer than usual, with national averages generally ranging from 140 to 180 days. So during the crash, and look, we can say 2005, before the crash, 30 to 40 days. So that was more normal to what we have now. And then let's see what 2007 said. This is so nice. I love AI. 70 to 90 days in 2007. There, sorry. Okay. If we go back to here, where are we at? 70 days right now. And again, it varies greatly by the time of the year, every single year. So when you hear people say, oh, days on market is 20 days higher now than May. Well, yeah, every single year it does that. It's nothing special. It's nothing abnormal. But we're nothing close. You know, you would say this is from 45 to 70 days on the market for this year. We're kind of at the highest right now. December is the highest, as you can see, all year long. And then it'll start to drop every single year, or sorry, every single month. So again, nothing to freak out about, nothing to go crazy about, even though many others will make you think the world is coming to an end. Median listing price, again, it's not sales price, which would be really, really nice, but this is the data they have. But it gives us an indication of what sales price is. 402,000 minus 1.8% year over year. So we're down 1.8%. And that's, let's see, 2023 was maybe a few percent higher. So it's been really steady, almost completely steady the last couple of years. Dead steady, nothing really going up, nothing really going down. I mean, this, you could consider this in the margin of error, you know, if we're talking about politics and polling and all of that fun stuff that we're thankfully done with now. But yeah, I mean, this is the crash that so many people were predicting over and over again and scaring people and telling them not to buy, and it did not happen. And I said I don't make predictions before, but I do make educated guesses and always add, hey, I could be wrong, nobody knows for sure. I don't see a crash coming. I've said that for a long time. I've said that for 10 years now. I've been making videos about the real estate market for at least 10 years. In those entire 10 years, I've pretty much said, I don't see a crash coming. There's too low inventory. Lending guidelines are too strict. There just isn't the craziness that happened in 2007 to 2009 and the lending that happened before that to cause it. And people don't realize, I talk about this a lot, there's only been 4 crashes in the history of the United States, like 1840s, 1870s, the Great Depression, 2008. Those are the only real estate crashes as defined as a 20% drop across the board in prices. Real estate crashes don't happen. There is no cycle where the market crashes every 15 or 20 years like people say. Real estate prices are usually very steady. They're seasonal. They go, you can see, they're very seasonal, and you can see some ups and downs throughout the year, just like almost every other single year except for 2020, the crazy COVID year. That's just how the market works. And the only way to get a crash or a significant drop in prices is to have massive oversupply, way too many houses, which we got in 2008 because they built like crazy. They built millions more houses than they're building now. And the reason they built so many houses was because lenders and banks were giving loans to anybody. There were literally like waitresses making 20 grand a year who could buy 3 houses. And so people kept buying houses and builders kept building them. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, these people can't afford these houses. Something's wrong. And then the rug was kind of pulled out. And it's like, oh yeah, these people can't afford these houses. These loans are going to go bad. We built millions too many houses. What do? Well, we had a housing crisis. Prices dropped to try and get those houses sold. It was a massive mess. We just aren't seeing that now. And you see people give different reasons for why it's going to crash. And those reasons have never happened before. They say, well, prices are too high. Prices went up higher in the 70s. Prices went up higher in the 40s. Prices have gone up higher than they did the last few years in multiple different instances in the United States. There was never a crash afterwards. There was never even a downturn afterwards. People have said, well, interest rates are going to cause prices to crash. Interest rates went higher for longer amounts of time. In the 70s, in the 80s, there was no crash. In fact, the 70s had the highest appreciating decade in the history of the US. Housing prices tripled during the 70s. So interest rates do not cause housing prices to drop either. They can cause a stagnant market. They can cause people to wait, but they just have never caused a crash. Affordability. People say, well, houses aren't affordable. People can't afford houses, so there's going to be a crash. People have to live somewhere, right? If houses aren't affordable, people figure it out. And the thing is, the United States has the 4th most affordable market in the world. The 4th. So let's look at that. So this gives us housing prices, affordability index. Syria is number 1. That's for the least affordable houses in the world. This site is not. Come on, site. Let's load. Sorry, 3rd. Sorry, the U.S. has moved up for their affordability index, which considers interest rates, payments, mortgages as a percent to income. So, right, Syria is the most expensive in the world, not because their prices are so high, but because people make no money there and they can't afford houses. So this is based off the money you make. Saudi Arabia, Oman have the best ratio, mostly because they have massive government subsidies for people to buy houses, and that makes houses more affordable there. United States, number 3. So prices to income, affordability ratio, mortgage as a percent of income, the United States is 3rd in the world. So if you think the United States is unaffordable, pretty much every other country is way worse. They talk about how Denmark and Finland and Sweden are all better countries than the U.S. You see those reports. I don't agree with those, but they have way more expensive housing than the U.S. Sweden has housing twice as expensive, more than twice as expensive as the U.S. Canada, we hear how, let's see, where is Canada? Canada, 40th. Housing is 3 times as expensive in Canada as the United States as a whole. Now, of course, there's different areas, different towns, different cities, different states, different counties are more expensive than others. But as a whole, looking at the whole country, Canada is 3 times more expensive. Australia, United Kingdom, Iceland, France, Switzerland, Japan, all way more expensive to buy a house in than the U.S. Now, I know a lot of people want someone to blame. They want to complain. They want to complain about investors buying houses, which is another myth because investors have been selling more houses than buying. There are 1.2 million fewer single-family rentals now than 2016. Wall Street owns 0.5% of houses. 0.5. That's how much Wall Street owns. So my point here isn't to tell people that it's not tough, that it's not hard, because buying a house is hard. It always has been. It was never easy to buy a house, despite what you might hear. What I'm trying to tell people is that you can do it, right? Even though it's hard, even though it takes effort and savings and work, you can do it. You're actually one of the easiest places in the world to do it if you live in the United States. There's programs out there There's FHA with 3.5% down. You can use down payment assistance with it to get that lower. You can ask the seller to pay closing costs. There's VA if you're in the military or active duty or retired, or you can get 0 down. There's USDA rural development loans for places that aren't in big cities where you can do 0% down. There's so many ways to buy houses. And what bothers me is that people are out there saying, it's going to crash. You can't buy houses. It's impossible. Just, the world's too tough. And people don't try. They don't try. And buying a house is one of the best ways to get ahead in life and build wealth. 90% of people who make less than $100,000 a year, 90% of wealth for people who make less than $100,000 per year comes from their personal house. 90%. And the people who make more than 100,000 also have a tremendous amount of wealth from their house. It's just that they have wealth from their job and investments as well. So it's not as big of a chunk as their investments. But for people who make less than 100,000, the house is by far the number one way for them to get ahead in life. So while it's hard, it's not easy. You're in a great place to do it. You're in one of the best places in the world to do it. Being mad at investors isn't going to help you do better. If you really want to be mad at someone, if that's your goal, is to be mad at someone, be mad at the Federal Reserve for having interest rates so high. If you really want to blame someone for making housing unaffordable, or more unaffordable than it is, it's interest rates. It's interest rates being high, and if they were lower, it'd be so much easier. You see every affordable index, and it all started when interest rates went up. House prices going up is a part of it, but by far the biggest part is interest rates. Okay. Went off on a bit of a tangent there that I wasn't expecting with my housing report, but there you go. That's my opinion on housing right now. That's my advice after being a real estate investor for 20 some years and a real estate agent and seeing this real estate world for a long time. As an investor, it's easier for me if prices are lower. It's easier for me if houses were a third the price they were. I can buy more houses. I can make more money. I have better margins. Be easier to cash flow on rentals. It'd just be so much easier to do everything if prices were lower, but they're not. I can't go back in time and change it. I can't force prices to be lower. There are some things I could do if I really wanted to. I could go to a different market. I could buy different types of properties. There's all kinds of things I can do to change that if I really want to, but complaining and being mad isn't one of those things that will help or do any good. So we deal with things, we work through them, and try not to let all the noise and negativity and doomsayers out there bother you or stop you from doing what's best for you and your family. All right. Now I'm really done. Thanks for watching. We'll be back soon with more videos on my flips, my rentals, my businesses, and my new goal to have $100 million in real estate. All that coming up soon.